that if we want to look at the opponents to the European idea and the opponents of the Pan-European Union that emerges really in 1923, but the founding Congress is here in Vienna in 1926, the opponents to this, including Nazis, including Hitler, and including most of the right wing in Germany and Hungary and some other Central European countries, they're opposed to this because they want to revise the post-war treaties. Whether this is Versailles or in Germany or whether this is Trianon in Hungary. And they see the best way of revising these treaties or rejecting these treaties as through war and through military conquest. And that Germany, or this may be Hungary, needs to reassert itself and reclaim these territories that have been unjustly ripped from them and stolen from them. So the European project was seen as more of a pacifist project. And of course, linking these different countries together through, first and foremost, economic ties and economic interlinkage, but also to create some sort of continental identity. And I think whether Rathenau was assassinated because he was a Jew or because he was seen as somehow subverting or undermining Germany's future position by them, I think in the end it's a disagreement about the means to revise Versailles or Trianon. In this case, they disagreed primarily with this peaceful approach to revising or annulling the post-war peace treaties. This was directed against Rathenau as a Jew. Rathenau also is being somehow blamed for the Durchstoß, in charge of the armaments industry during the First World War, and seen as somehow responsible for Germany's loss, or part of the larger Jewish guilt or Jewish blame for losing World War I. Also, as you mentioned, his overtures to the Soviets. This played into certain stereotypes about the Judeo-Bolshevism or Bolshevik Jew. But also, Walter Rathenau was at this point, no Jew had reached this kind of position in the German government. And this was also the fact that a Jew reached such a position of power in the Weimar government also further tainted the Weimar government as a Jewish government. So it delegitimized it, I think, in part, in the eyes of the extreme right. One of the things that's interesting about the Union is the personality of the founder also. So this is Richard von Coudenhove-Kalergi, who was the son of a Bohemian aristocrat. He actually had Czech citizenship, and the son of a Japanese mother, Mitsuko Ayama, who was descended from a samurai family. So the main proponent of the Pan-European movement or the Pan-European Union is himself someone who, let's say, does not have fully European roots, is very, very much embedded in the European aristocracy. But of course, his mother is from a different kind of aristocracy, more of a Japanese aristocracy. And the father, Heinrich, was, something I've come across in my research, and this isn't, I guess, known by everyone, that he was what I might call a anti-Semite who overcame his anti-Semitism. And he published a book in 1901 that was called Das Wesen des Antisemitismus, in which he actually draws on a lot of the stereotypes about Jews as being selfish and greedy. But in the end, this is a book that condemns anti-Semitism, and it sees anti-Semitism as un-Christian. So to go back to the question you just asked about the Pan-European Union being a Christian project, according to the father, Heinrich von Coudenhove-Kalergi, anti-Semitism is very un-Christian, right? So he was one of the strongest proponents of anti-Semitism. And this is something that also comes out in in Richard von Coudenhove-Kalergi and his whole Pan-European Union. Although this is rooted in Christian values and it's supposed to be a non-secular project, this is a Christian project. It is a Christian project that has a place for Jews. It is not he doesn't use the term Judeo-Christian tradition, but this is a concept that is present in this idea of a Christian Europe. So there is a place for Jews in this Europe, the one that is understood, I think, by the Father as well as by the Son. So in terms of this being a Christian project, this is a Christian enlightened project as well, and it is very much in opposition to a certain kind of exclusionary nationalism, right? Which is, of course, much more of a threat to Jews' efforts to integrate in the late 19th and, of course, in the early 20th century, especially in the 1920s. So this creates a much larger structure. And I think most Jews also acknowledged in the 1920s that Europe was a Christian continent. They may have seen themselves as part of it, but this was not a Jewish continent. The Pan-European Union was maybe viewed by some of its detractors and opponents as something inherently Jewish because it tried to break down certain national boundaries. It tried to create a supranational organization in which the most important criterion was your Europeanness, not your Germanness or your Frenchness. But of course, your Germanness or your Frenchness or your Austrianness, these were compatible with Europeanness as well. So I don't think that there's a inherent contradiction here between Jews embracing the Pan-European Union or the Pan-European movement and the Pan-European movement seeing itself as a movement that upholds and fosters a Christian Europe.